2 weeks to go. Welcome to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. Today we are reviewing round 22 as we talk about all things AFL Fantasy, review the round and give our trade targets and preview the second last week of Fantasy Finals. Let's go!
Hodge has done it from nowhere. Busting the goal from inside the target. Sheed from the boundary. Dusty. Oh, yes! You're a magician. Petrarca. The legend becomes immortal.
G'day and welcome again to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. I'm your host, Mitch Casey, and you can find me on Twitter at Ball Boys Fantasy. And I am a loser, and I am sitting next to a winner today who, he's in the granny. He's representing the Ball Boys for the second year in a row. We're in the Content Creators Cup Finals, but this time it won't be me. Yeah,
Legends and Losers, the title of this video, aptly named. Check out the thumbnail if you're unsure.
So why are you a legend, mate? Why are you a legend?
Well, I won and you lost, but to be fair, I'd still rather switch spots with you. I'd rather be in the top 10. I actually haven't spoken to you about this. Did you hold your rank in the top 10 in the end?
I'm 10th.
Oh, okay.
So it was looking dicey at one stage. I think the last game started, I was sitting 20th, but Rory led. No one else has him.
Yeah.
So he called me back in, even though he didn't have a great score, but it was enough to get me back just to 10th. So slid 3 spots from 7th to 10th. So that's my goal, is to stay in that top 10, stay in the money, as they would say. So hang on to that final table in the World Series of Poker. So
how did it unfold? What happened?
So I scored a 24.04. So, but beaten by Bale's the beater. He
beat you this time.
Yeah, he's a beater, so he beat me, and he got me by 40 points. Now, all credit to the man. You know, I actually believe you picked him at the start of the year to go pretty well, and he's come in and for the second year in a row, and I knew it was our second year in a row in there, but for the second year in a row, the grand final of the Content Creators Cup is the AFL Fantasy Fanatics versus the Ball Boys. Hey. Last year it was me and Guesty. This year it's flip the script.
Look at that.
It's the other boys on the grand final. So
we know how to get a league win.
Yeah, so the boys are meeting each other, but he got me by 40 points. And I'm really good at this, going back in hindsight, but if I traded Nick Dacos instead of trading Jordan Clark, I would have won. That's a 50-point turnaround. But I didn't do that because I'm an idiot.
We're all fucking good in hindsight.
Yeah.
God,
this game would be so easy hindsight.
I'd be so good at it.
But anyway, look, I'm just kind of, happy and at peace now that I'm not going to get the car. I think that stress is off my shoulders now, so I'm hopefully going to be a little bit friendlier on Twitter.
well, yet to be seen. Well, if you had taken on me, mate, you would have got me. I only got a 23.87, and
it's not how it goes, mate. So
it didn't do anything for my overall rank too. I think I moved up like 20 positions in overall rank, and I thought it was a half decent score. But this time of year is frustrating, and I remember this feeling last year as well. You feel like you're making the right trades, you feel like you're making the right VC picks and stuff, and everyone's teams are so good at the moment. Like if you're not up there with 5 or 6 rounds to go, like don't bother. You're not.
It's so hard to make ground.
Give up.
But hopefully our listeners and viewers out there got a win in their league finals, because we've got 2 weeks left.
100%.
Some people might be going into their prelims at the moment, or maybe like you into the grand final. So hopefully for those still watching along, we can help you secure the win and get bragging rights over your mates, because at the end of the day, that's all what it's about. So
that's definitely been the good part, is turning your attention to your league matchup and 100%. Trying to get that. So I just snuck up over the Warn Dogs this week, and taking on Bales in the final.
And it was, again, this year I feel like it's worse than ever, but the matchups, man, and watching the players, who's in their side, who they traded out.
The app needs work.
The app needs work, guys, I'm telling you, because it didn't used to be like this, I swear.
You should tweet about it.
I should tweet about it, but we need to see what's going on, because it's very, very hard to follow this time. And anyway, but head over to infinitewealth.com.au/AFL Fantasy to get your free gift to make smarter financial decisions from Tim Gessie. It's valued at $3,000, and go over there and check that out. I think there's also some events going on, so if you want to know more, head over to the website or listen to the AFL Fantasy Fanatics. I'm sure they will be able to plug that one a little bit better in terms of those events. But let's talk about some camels and some sponges.
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
SpongeBob SquarePants!
Absorbent and yellow and porous is he.
SpongeBob SquarePants!
Now, I'm surprised that there's not a certain ruckman in this spot here, but we don't always just go straight to the top. This guy, he deserves it because he plays a difficult role.
That's the thing. And when I was having a bit of a look for spongy behaviour this week, of course, the ex-Meister could have had it the last 3 weeks in a row. But
I mean, we'll cover him later.
Well, we certainly will. We certainly will. But Dylan Moore playing that high half-forward role, the fact that he is even a consideration in our fantasy teams in that hard role that he plays is really good. And the 15 marks on the weekend is
15 marks.
Is massive, yeah.
Against Carlton.
Hey, he worked hard, and Hawthorn just absolutely dismantled. Hawthorn just keep trucking, don't they?
Hawthorn, look out for them in finals, I reckon, man. Like they've got, I think, 2 easy games of the next 2. So
hey, they got
could
the
sneak into the
witches' hats.
sort of top 6 sort of levels. So, yeah, I mean, I've always loved Dylan Moore. You know me. I'm a big fan of him as a player. And if he was to ever be that inside midfielder, man, this guy would pop off. But 1 CBA, and he still manages the 130 with 15 marks. So
beast mode.
Just a bit of a gun. Who put the humps
My
on?
hump, my 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 hump.
All right, the hump of the week, or the camel of the week, goes to 2 players.
It's a dual hump.
It's a dual hump. It's a double hump. What do we got?
You got the best midfield matchup in the game.
Fuck me.
I didn't watch this game, and I'm fucking glad I didn't, because this one just defies all logic. This is the frustrating time of the year where you're making your decisions based on matchup.
This should have worked.
It should have worked, but Geelong, easy matchup for midfielders, love to be cuddled.
Most tackle team in the competition. Highest stoppage team in the competition.
And Hayden Young, who we know loves to cuddle, only managed 3 tackles and a dog shit score. We have this decision about these defenders. You got Jordan Clark, you got Hayden Young, you got Nick Martin. These guys, you're thinking, okay, they're all kind of hitting about that 90 mark. Who are you going to trade out? And we looked at it and we thought...
You go to the matchups, you go to the scale of hardness.
Correct. You thought, okay, well, Hayden Young, he's got that Geelong matchup for the mids.
Yep.
You probably do that. Geelong, defenders haven't scored as well against them, so you probably think...
They were a red matchup.
We can ditch Clark. Okay, we can ditch Nick Martin, who's not playing a friendly role.
He's playing on a wing.
And then...
the one guy you keep.
Fantasy says, fuck you.
Yeah. No. Fuck you and your data.
Yeah.
No, logic. Throw that out the window. No, you can't use that. So
Hayden Young, Andy Brayshaw, you've got the best matchup for mids. Just
Andy Brayshaw
do something.
Saved his score. He had an 81, and that was a save. He had 35 points in the last quarter. It was looking like absolute dog shit up until that point.
Camel shit.
Camel shit. It was Hump City in that game. And I was just so frustrated because... And I'm going to talk about them later, so maybe I'll leave it till then. But... yeah, just the way things unfolded in that game just really, really grinded my gears there. But we'll talk about that later in the Bogs and Flogs, which is coming out.
And the winner of the Norm Smith Medal.
You're an embarrassment to what you do, mate. You're an embarrassment.
All right, you're the legend this week, the winner of the group. So you're going to go through the best on grounds in this segment. Who have we got for Sydney versus Collingwood?
I said Sydney would be back, and
Back.
back today, Junior. I said they'd be back. And guess who was back in the last quarter?
Yes, he was.
Your boy Isaac Heaney. We had a conversation on when would it have been last Monday maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, could you loop Heaney's going poorly?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
And I mean, it was almost justified the way he was going, but then he put on a 60
He had like
point,
13 points in the first quarter. He was looking terrible again.
60 point last quarter. So
wow.
Heaney's last quarter gets the bog, and not only fantasy bog, but
legit bog.
Correct.
If only that man was eligible for a Brownlow. 13 points in the first quarter, and then went and quadrupled that in the last quarter. So that's a handy work there. The flog on this one here goes to Errol Goulden, man. Now, I don't think many of us were predicting a steel side bottom tag.
He did a fucking good job.
But if you get tagged by steel side bottom and you're Errol Goulden, I don't care. Score more. You can't go 60.
It was the stoppage work that killed Errol there. And then side bottom got off him for like 30 touches as well, didn't he?
Yeah, what the fuck?
Oh my God.
Still side bottom. Yeah, I mean, 21.
Okay, sorry, I'm embellishing.
Yeah, it seemed like that, the way that Errol was going. But Errol 14 touches, 1 mark for Errol.
Yeah.
He's one of the fittest guys in the competition, and you can't beat 40-year-old Steele side bottom. You're kidding me. Friday night footy.
Poor Steele.
Mate. It must have been those extra training sessions.
Yeah,
that training block.
It could well have been.
Is that what it was? But yeah, he kicked a goal in that score as well. Yeah, just terrible.
Like, wasn't it?
I mean, if you put the VC on him, hopefully you went into a Tristan Sherry C.
Yeah, and even if you went into Marshall, it's
not the worst. But still, it seemed like a bit of a waste when it seemed like there was 3 great options this week. And that Friday night one just went to shit. So, yeah, not good enough, Errol. Lions versus Giants.
Not a huge scoring one here, but I've given it to Peatling. He got the 80, which I think for a lot of people is sort of semi-happy with. There were other
83.
options.
Yep.
Obviously, if you didn't have Dylan Moore, you would have been disappointed, or even Tom Powell went really well. But in that game, Peatling got it done. What we expected against a tougher matchup.
Flog for me for this one. Giants first quarter. They got absolutely fucked in the first quarter. It was Sydney versus Port Adelaide levels, like 31-1 or something like that. And if they had rocked up in the first quarter, Peatling's score would have actually been decent. Do you know how many points Peatling scored in the first quarter? 2.
Ooh.
So he went 81 points in the last 3 quarters. So had he actually showed up in that first quarter and the Giants had showed up in the first quarter, we could have had some much better scores from players like Tom Green, players like Whitfield, who was, had his first down game in the second half of the year.
Was it the first week you put him in the big boys? Or you still?
No, he was out.
You still didn't put him in.
He was out of the big boys. So
hey, finally,
vindication.
You picked it.
I've been wrong for 7 weeks, and now I'm right. So eat that, losers. Obviously kidding. But yeah, so if he had just woken up that first quarter, he would have, made me feel a little bit better about taking the 83. 80 was my line, so I took the score. But yeah, just you don't feel great accepting an 83,
You want better at this time of year.
You do want better. But let's move on to North versus West Coast, where we're going to talk about a special ruckman.
It's too easy, man. The X-Meister. It was at one point after, I think it was a late adjustment that took him to 168, but I think he had 169.
He did, yeah. I think he lost the hit out, yeah. Just absolute craziness. Some stats are flying around. He's the only player ever to lead all scorers for 3 consecutive rounds. So no one's ever done that before. He's one of 3 players to go 3 150s in a row. The only other 2 players are Tom Mitchell and Tom Rockcliffe. So he's the first player not named Tom to go 150 3 times in a row.
Bro, the traders will snout this guy.
He's in conversations, absolutely. It's just absolutely bananas. And
I want to know how many blokes have gone back-to-back 150s coming off a less than 25-point first quarter as well.
Well, yeah, that's 3 times in a row he's gone poor. And I traded him in. Yeah, you don't go too good in the first quarter.
Correct.
I traded him in, and I saw that first quarter, and I said, if this motherfucker goes shit and gets outscored by English after he drops 2 150s on me, but thankfully...
Oh, man, he came good.
I traded him in, and I even questioned it after Dacos' 71, because I thought I'd do some tricky stuff and loop. I'd put him on the bench, but lucky I didn't, because I just thought I can't not have this guy. So we all have him, we all captained him, but fuck, he's a beast.
Yeah.
Absolute beast.
Who's the flog?
The flog here is Tom Powell.
Oh, harsh.
Yeah, played a good game. But where was this before? When you were in our teams? Why are we fucking around with Peatling and laid outs of Philippou when you got this guy scoring 120s, 110s, when he was in our side? Where was this before? He's not even playing defence anymore. He's back in the midfield. Like, this is what he was doing before, and now he's just good. Why? Yeah. Why is he good?
It kills, man.
I don't know, but it's maddening. It's anyway, but it's
maddening.
I don't know what you can do because like their run is now like they have had the good run, right?
Yeah.
Like they had the Richmond, Geelong, West Coast.
Now there's something into Hawthorn, I think.
So they've got a couple of tough ones now. So I don't know. Do you jump on Tom Powell? He's still got that stench about him, but the numbers he's putting up, you can't deny him. So a tough one. Freo versus Geelong.
I don't want to give it to these 2 guys. They're going to go unnamed. The 2 top scorers.
I don't even know. I'm trying to look at. Oh,
what is this?
No, they're the flog. The flog is this.
Well, they're not the bog.
They're not the bog.
Either. So no one's getting the bog.
It's a bogless game.
It's a shit game.
It's a shit game.
Yeah, the game was a big steaming pile of bog.
Yeah, well,
fucking
so
sucks.
Freo get the flog here because
did Geelong let them wax? This I'm glad I didn't watch it.
I watched bits and pieces of this game. I didn't watch the entire game, but the fact that Jordan Clark has not gone over a ton or not gone over 104 since before the bye round. Luke Ryan gets a 120 last week. You will think it's a flash in the pan. He goes fucking 152 with 15 marks. So many people have, like, I traded out Clark this week. So many people would trade out Clark this week or the week before, or Luke Ryan 2 weeks ago. And they just slap it back on your face.
This is the problem with these guys.
And it's just Uno reverse what should have happened.
It sucks with these guys because I think we all are aware that if teams allow them to do what they want to do, which is waxy, then you're going to see scores like that. But we thought as fantasy coaches that over the last 5-6 weeks, teams have gone, after what they did to Melbourne essentially, teams have gone, nah,
let's not let them do that.
You're not going to do that to us.
And they came out and said, like, we don't want to overpossess the ball. And they were playing a bit more that way. And Luke Ryan, like, there's no Pierce there. Like, it
gives us things to think about, doesn't
far out. It's just, and now I just don't know what to do, right? Like, do you trade him back in? Do you not? Like, we said last week, don't bother trading Luke Ryan, but if you ignored that advice, you had a 150 in your backline where a lot of people had a 70 from Dacos. So, just, annoying stuff. Essendon versus Gold Coast, very tight game. Gold Coast have done it, Luke.
Finally.
They finally did it. 1 point win after the siren.
All it took was a kick after the siren.
Yeah, that's all it took. Just do that every week.
Fantasy-wise, it was Zachy Merritt getting it done, and then a guy that we'll give a bit more airtime to later as well.
Nick Martin.
Again,
role change.
Oh, and it just hurts. It hurts. I traded him out this week and obviously kept Hayden Young. And
so you traded out a 120.
That's 50 points.
And got a 70. I traded out a 120, got a 70 instead.
Yeah. So the role has done the old Uno reverse again. Yeah. So we'll talk about him later, but yeah.
Joe Caldwell gets the flog here. Just not good enough, man. It's better. 62. Kicked a goal in that. Time on ground, I think, was low last time I checked. Let me just double check that again. But 79%. That's not too bad. Yeah, I don't know.
A stinky one.
It was just a sticky one. It was a good matchup. Should have scored better. Merritt must have just taken all his points. Just not good, Jai. And this was the concern. Obviously, he had that hot run for a little while. He's back down to a bit of up and down scoring. Let's go to Melbourne versus Port Adelaide.
Completely fantasy irrelevant, but we love ourselves a horny boy. Well done, Jason. 140.
Massive score. Massive score. 141, 2 goals, 13 marks. I'm sure he doesn't do that very often. But that's really, really good from him. Flog for this one. I'm just reversing over Clayton Oliver. I know he hasn't been relevant for a number of weeks now, but I'm questioning his relevance for next year.
That's how bad it gets, doesn't it?
We fast forward 6 months.
Yeah.
We're looking at the stats, right? Because that's what we'll do, and we'll go, who's undervalued? Who's value this year, this time of year? And you'll look at Clayton Oliver's name, and you'll see the average of. Let me just pull it up here. He's not a forward. You'll see the average of 77.7 next to his name, and you go, this guy 2 years ago averaged 110.
And you'll still think,
do I want this guy in my team? 43, 62, 100, 63, 99, 45, 109, 26, 67. Like,
a player of his stature.
What's happened?
A player of his stature can't have 2 seasons like this. That if I was thinking about picking him next year,
does he need a change of club to be someone you want to pick?
I mean, if he changed club, you'd be all over him like a rash on a hooker. But the problem is, I don't think that's happening.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so. And
Melbourne got to do something.
Yeah, they do, but I think even without that, there's probably an argument to say surely a guy that is that good can't have 2 seasons like that. But
oh my god, I'm going to have to see something in the preseason, because if it's just this data I'm going off, it's horrible. Like, the role's no different. Anyway, it's one of the most mysterious things I think I've seen this season. Carlton versus Hawthorn, the charging Hawks and the floundering Blues. 112-38.
The Bog, we won't spend any more time on him
than we already have, yes.
Because there's still more.
There's still more. Just a legend, just a gun. Flog, it's a similar case to the Freo conversation before, Matt Kennedy and the Tom Power conversation. How can you trust this guy?
Yeah.
134. Like, in terms of just the new... I mean, it's because of all the subs and all this stuff and the role, but he's the new Dan Houston. He's just absolutely up and down. And if we knew that he was going to have the role, we'd just lock him in and we wouldn't have any questions in our F6. But 134, but the previous 4 games, he went 68, 73, 56, and 31. And before that, he had 3 tons in a row. 2 games before that, 69, 36.
It's a waste. It's wasted talent.
It's a waste of talent. It's frustrating.
From a fantasy perspective.
You can't trust it, but it's annoying when you see him gobble up all these stats and our other Carlton boys can't get near it. So
Richmond St Kilda was always going to be messy, and Romar did exactly what we thought he would. He's a beast, and I'm glad I traded him in this week.
This was the most bruise-free footy I've seen for the entire season. There was hardly any tackles in this. Did you see Romar's score and how he got there?
It was good. 3 goals, didn't he? Kick in the end?
He had 0 tackles.
Bro.
Rowan Marshall had no tackles, and he scored 140.
He normally has a few cuddles, doesn't he?
That is crazy. Yeah, Richmond, they are playing for absolutely nothing right now. The flog for this one, the poo had the poos.
He had a little bit of a runny tummy, did he?
He was late out.
Who would have thunk it?
For illness. And this sent shockwaves across the competition, especially up the top there. The number 1 team in fantasy going into the competition, going into this week, copped a donut this round.
Holy crap.
Because of they traded in Philippou and missed the late out. So they've dropped from driving a Hilux down to 5th place because they had a 0 and no bench cover. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the no bench cover. A lot of us have no bench cover because we've been cashing in those rooks.
It's a reminder, though. It's a big reminder.
Yeah, that's killer for me because that person's probably out just enjoying their weekend. Maybe, you know what I mean?
I heard somewhere, and I don't have no source on this, but I heard somewhere he's in Europe or something like the coach. I don't know if that's true at all.
Things up. You're making vicious.
But
I know that wouldn't. I know a fixed lockout would not help that situation, but at least it would put.
You wouldn't find yourself in that situation in a fixed lockout. You would make sure you'd have cover in a fixed lockout. I think I would.
This late in the that's an interesting. That's
especially
a different discussion.
for like you traded this guy in. You could go back and edit that trade, but of course, if you miss it, you don't see it. Sucks. But that's
poor poo.
That's a big lesson for us. Adelaide versus Western Bulldogs, last game of the round, best on ground.
Bont does this where he just stinks it up, and then suddenly you're like, hang on a sec, he's on 130, and he did it again. I think he started with like a 9-point first quarter and finished with a 50-point last quarter to give you effectively a 130, I think it was.
120 something. Yeah, a lot of games like that.
The Bont does it. The Bont does it.
Flog for this one is Bailey Dale. I've pumped him up several times at points this season, but he went absolutely missing in this game. 45 points, no tackles, 2 marks. He was someone that I was, potentially considering as one of that D6 options, but yeah, absolute stinker from out of nowhere for Bailey Dale. I think rules him out of that conversation. All right, let's talk about some general strategy. There was a lot of time on Bogs and Flogs, but there's a lot of stuff going on at the moment. Let's talk about strategy chat. You've got on the run sheet here. We're still fucking around with F6 and F7, so
yeah,
we're not really much closer to an established answer. I've been personally pretty happy with Philippou and Myers kind of switching in and out. But you have to think that...
Peatling, you mean?
Peatling.
You don't feel a bit.
Peatling and Myers. But you have to think that Cogs is probably back this week.
Yeah.
And those who brought in Philippou, I think I was jealous at the time. I was thinking he was going to be the right one, but it was a bit kissed from my end. So, one, if Philippou was back... Like, are we just all's forgiven? We just jump back on him? And
yeah, I think so. An upset tummy is not something that you're going to balk at if he's all good.
And they've got Geelong.
Yeah.
So, is he still our answer?
I think the poo is.
Yeah.
I think the poo's still your answer. And then...
So, you got the top 5, right? We all know the top 5. It's Zorko, Flanders, Heaney, Caldwell, and Dylan Moore.
Yeah.
You have to have those 5.
Yeah. You're still flirting with Powell.
I think Powell could be the option of all of them.
Yeah, but it goes against the matchup. It goes against the matchup.
He's got Bulldogs, Hawthorn.
Yeah, which is not
3 tons in a row. He's doing the old Matt Kennedy. Watch him be sub now. Yeah, tough one. He's gone 7 marks in the last 3 games. 26 disposals, 21 disposals, 34 disposals in his last 3. 2 tackles, 8 tackles, 6 tackles. He's kicked 3 goals in the last 3 as well. We also need to highlight that. So I do think the scores are a bit inflated to what we should expect, especially those last 2 matchups, West Coast and Richmond, where they won against Richmond. They should have won against West Coast. West Coast came back in the end. They're going to get flogged, I'd imagine, in these next 2 games.
If you don't already have an F7 Lupe
you need the loop.
fella, so you reckon that's a priority
I think you
for
have
people?
to have the loop. You can't just be rolling the dice and just going, I'm going to bank in. The thing is, though...
Is that a higher priority than getting rid of someone like a Hayden Young, Nick Dacos? Where does that fall in?
The thing is, it depends. So, say, for example, you have just a player sitting there at F6, and you've got Peatling sitting there. Peatling plays early on the Saturday, so he plays at 1:45. So this is what I did the first week before I got Peatling in. That first player, if they play early enough in the round, and you can have a look at their score first, if they score 80 plus and you're going to take it, well, there's no point trading in an F7 if you're going to take the score from your F6 anyway.
Yeah.
So in that case, you can have a look and still make another trade. But if it's a shit score, and my line has always been 80, if they score below 80, then trade in, the Philippou or someone else in that position, and then you've got your F7 loop. But I think, say for example, you're rolling with a Simkin. Simkin plays 110 on Sunday.
Yeah.
And if you've just got him at F6 and no sort of loop action, and I'm not talking about like a Manor or, people roll with Darling. I don't think they cut the mustard anymore.
Power, Poo.
Peatling, Powell, Poo,
Triple
Myers.
P. Oh, you've ruined the triple P thing. I was going to run with that.
Kennedy, if you want to throw him in the mix.
Penalty and Pyres.
Penalty, Pyres.
Peatling, Poo, Powell, Penalty and Pyres.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you have, you've got to have 2 of those if you don't already. Unless you got one of the early ones, which I think Peatling's the example of the early one that you can have a look at, and then if it goes all right, you trade somewhere else. But what about, and there's the other question I've got for you, a lot of people might have seen the laid out for Philippou.
Yep.
And they've had to scramble.
Ew.
They've had to trade in garbage. They've had to trade in the likes of...
Out Poo in garbage. It's not a good trade.
Yeah. Because they had to get someone on the field, right? So I know, for example, our friend Bales, he traded in Bradley Hill. Some people would have gone to like a Mason Wood, or heaven forbid if you went for a Richmond in Shea Bolton, or someone like a Baker. Some people would have gone, really rogue and went to a key forward of some kind, like a Rory Lobb or something like that.
Yeah.
So you've got this mess after that laid out. What are you doing with those players? Like, is it urgent to trade those guys out? Again, I guess it depends on the other loop option you have. But
yeah, that and the matchup that they're coming into as well.
So Saints play Saturday night. You would have edited the trade, so you might not have Philippou in your team anymore. I think those players are still a fairly urgent trade out.
Yeah, I think so.
You want 2 cracks at it.
You do. I mean, hopefully when you were scrambling, you were able to pick a player that potentially you liked this week, and then also maybe had a decent matchup to come, just in case you got stuck with them.
I'm not sure who that would be, to be honest. I don't know if there's anyone.
St Kilda, Richmond, Adelaide, or the Dogs.
The Dogs play North, Kangaroos.
So maybe, a Bulldogs forward. But yeah, I think that for most people at this time of the season, that's going to be a priority to move that trade. And you're just going to the poo, aren't you? So you're probably, hopefully you're in a position where that will be very much just a sideways or even down trade for you.
Yeah.
And you can still then use your other trade to do something that you might want to. Talk to me. I mean, we're kind of digressing, aren't we? So
a little bit.
What was there?
So we're talking about the Hail Mary.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks to go. The question is it time to throw a Hail Mary yet? And what are the Hail Marys to throw?
Yeah.
Because in previous years, there's been, some juicy matchups to look at for some of the key forwards. We always like to look at the Coleman medal race. But with Charlie Curnow going down, potentially missing this week with his ankle injury, Jesse Hogan's kind of out in front. The next closest, I think you were saying before the pod, was Ben King from Gold Coast.
Yeah, if Kernow's is indeed out.
But he's like, what, 9? You said 9 goals away?
At the moment, as it stands. And I don't feel good about that one being a Hail Mary.
No, I mean, they do play Richmond in the last round. So maybe they play before the Giants, which you'd prefer them to be after, so they've got a target to kick in the ball a lot. But I don't love that as a play this year. A few people were targeting like Tex Walker last year, and that paid off. I don't think you've got any retiring half backers that
And
they're
even
going to
then,
feed the ball.
I mean, I think I threw one on the second last round of Shannon Hearn. Was it Shannon Hearn last year?
Zeeble.
Zeeble, it might have been
Yeah.
Zeeble, and that didn't work.
nothing,
And
yeah.
2 rounds out, you kind of it's all a little bit lost at that point for some teams anyway. But it didn't really come to fruition. So I think that Hail Mary is maybe a last round thing.
I think the Hail Mary that has the highest possibility of success and probably the biggest success is trading out someone who's super popular.
Okay,
So-
just hoping.
And just hoping that
Yes.
something happens. You traded out at Errol Goulden last week.
Mm.
Completely, no one would have done it, right?
Yeah.
On paper, it was the greatest matchup. He goes to 69. You trade him to someone, and they go, well, no, like everybody else has him, so you're getting a one up on the competition. I think those kind of moves. You trade out a Jai Caldwell to a Tom Powell. There's 60 points.
Yeah.
On absolutely everybody. It's very difficult to make up 60 points on the entire competition because if you're trading in a unique, like a lot of the podcasts, we're discussing players like Noah Anderson, all these other guys that are lowly owned.
Yeah.
Some other people are going to have them. But if you're trading out someone that everybody has, and it's risky, right? But that's why it's a Hail Mary. So if you're coming in from somewhere you just want to have a crack, I think trading out one of those highly owned players is the way to go. In terms of who are those highly owned players, let's have a look at the top 100 and basically tick them off. Can you see a world where they go shit and you can get someone else? So Tristan Sherry, 100% owned. You're not doing that. Absolutely not.
I'd advise against it.
I would too. Harry Sheasel, I don't think I'd be trading him out either.
No.
Dane Zorko, no. Flanders, no. Caldwell.
Yeah, potentially.
So he's
There's a
100%.
world.
He's 100% owned in the top 100, 99% in the top 1,000.
Okay.
So he's someone, again, trading him to a Powell, netted you nearly 60 points last week.
So Essendon have Sydney on the Friday night this coming week.
So you got to pull that trade.
Yeah, and then then they have the Lions. So it's not like he's going into 2
Not easy draws.
matchups.
So maybe there's someone we could flag. Despite him going poorly, Errol Goulden.
It's also a bit of who too, like on that line as a forward.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Matt Kennedy.
That could be an
80
all-time.
points last
That could
week.
be an all-time Hail Mary.
Errol Goulden, I still don't think I would, but maybe that's what makes it a good Hail Mary because no one else would.
Yeah, Sydney they go Essendon then into Adelaide.
I can't see anyone from Essendon running with Errol.
No.
Can you? No. I don't think so. And Adelaide haven't been tagging, so I don't think that would happen. Isaac Heaney, we saw the risk with that, so no. Lockie Whitfield, again, Lockie Whitfield scored terrible, but I don't think I could see it. Rowan Marshall, no. Going down the list here, here's a player, and spoilers alert for the chopping block. Zach Merritt. He's 92% owned in the top 100, 90% in the top 1,000. He comes up against Sydney.
Same as Caldwell.
Same as Caldwell.
Yeah.
But they also, I think, are more likely to tag someone like a Merritt.
Sydney and Brisbane.
They just clamped Nick Dacos to a 70. Could you get rid of a Zach Merritt?
Be a brave. Oh, Jesus. Did you hear that?
Going through puberty, mate.
That was a good one. Be brave to trade someone coming off a 130.
It would be.
But I mean, it's a Hail Mary, isn't it? So, yeah.
It is a Hail Mary.
Not for me. Not for me this week, anyway.
Tom Green, 92%. So I've pulled that move in the 92 and 90% in the top 100. So he's gone back-to-back scores under 100. I think his run, Freo, solid. Western Bulldogs, solid. I don't see any tags coming there, but good midfielders. I think there's maybe better options. And they're all the guys, and Jack Sinclair's 90% in the top 100, so he's got another good matchup this week. They're all the guys in the 90% owned territory. So I think of those players, the best Hail Mary that I can pick out of those ones are Zach Merritt, Jai Caldwell, so the 2 Essendon boys. If you really want to get spicy, someone like Tom Stewart. Why did Tom Stewart score so shit on the weekend? What was up with him?
That game just fucking sucked.
Yeah, that was that upside down, topsy-turvy game.
Everything about that game stunk. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, so maybe a Tom Green as a 92% owned. But I think looking at those Essendon guys, I think maybe the ones if you want to have a Hail Mary. Throw out the stumps, you can have a look at that.
Should we chop?
Let's chop.
Have you updated your graphic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Looks different to the run
no,
sheet.
I haven't. Yeah.
Let's just chop without a graphic.
Let's
to start
chop
with.
without. Well, we'll need the sound grab, mate.
Oh, of course we will.
We'll chuck it up and I'll do a bit of editing on the fly. So let's go chopping. All right, so we're chopping on this one here. So the first one I want to have a look at is the Freo boys. Now, there's a lot of players I want to chop from Freo. The top of the list, I think it has to be Top Knot himself. I think the song's going to play again, actually. If I do this.
Yeah. Let's play
do it
the song again.
Oh, no, it didn't.
Oh, it didn't play.
Yeah, there you go. So I think Hayden Young, he's the number one trade out target, I think. We held him for this matchup.
Well, that's the sucky thing too, is like you just hanging for one matchup knowing it's shit to come and you don't even get sugar from that.
Yeah, look, a few of us traded him last week, but after you had a couple people out for Freo, you sort of thought, oh, they've got some good matchups with their midfielders. Hold him for another few weeks and trade him out. But those have now gone. He was a trade out target already before then anyway, so I think he can safely go. What about the other mids? Brayshaw and Sarong. Now, Sarong, he got 102, I think, but he kicked 3 goals to get there.
Yep.
And they're going into the GWS Giants, and I feel fairly confident that Toby Bedford will go straight to Sarong and try and tag him. He went to Neil, held him to, I think, a 70 or a 60 score on the weekend. And Sarong hasn't been really fighting through these tags all that well previous to the last few rounds.
Yeah, I think Sarong's a higher priority than Brayshaw, because I think even though Brayshaw hasn't been humming, at least in the last 8 weeks, Brayshaw's shown some evidence of ceiling.
Yeah, it's his first game under 100 in the last 4.
Yeah, so I think that Brayshaw can hurt you potentially more if you look to trade him out. So,
and I've heard some people think that he could get this. I would be pretty surprised if they tag Brayshaw.
Yeah, I'm thinking Sarong too. I mean,
I'm thinking you're tagging Sarong. You're probably tagging Hayden Young, maybe Jordan Clark before you're tagging Brayshaw. If you're trying to get rid of players who actually affect the game in bigger ways. So I think Brayshaw would probably... Now, it's a tough matchup regardless, but I don't feel as worried about him dropping like a really poor score as I do Sarong. So I've got them both on the list here, but I definitely do personally have Sarong as a more urgent trade-out target. Talked about Zach Merritt.
Yeah. I think Nick Dacos should be higher on this list.
So Nick Dacos, he goes to 71. Late update to get there as well. Got a late tackle added. He played 90% time on ground too. He had 25 disposals, but he gave away 3 free kicks. He only had the 4 tackles, 0 marks for the second game in a row.
He goes into the Lions this week, but...
Do they tag him?
They're a tough-ish matchup regardless of the tag, aren't they?
They don't give up many marks as is. I don't think the Lions do. They do. They're a tackleable team.
The Lions have got to win this week to be in touch with the top 4.
They're sitting 5th right now.
Yeah, they got Freo nipping at their heels, and
a Collingwood. Are they out? I think mathematically they could make it still, but
it's hard to see it, isn't it? Melbourne is a good matchup 2 weeks later. So
that'll almost be a dead rubber kind of game.
Is that a tie break where you just go, okay, if you're thinking Hayden Young or Nick Dacos, you trade Hayden Young because he's going into 2 tougher matchups, whereas Dacos maybe has a cheap matchup where he can do what he likes in the last round?
Yeah. What do you think Dacos is like as a guy playing for nothing? Like, is he a guy that will feast and rack up stats just because, or is he the kind of guy that's like, there's nothing to play for, I'm going to turn it off?
I think he's still going to work hard regardless, surely. I think Hayden Young's still a bigger priority in your defense, and you're probably not in a luxurious position to trade both of them unless you're cashed up.
Yeah, I mean, they both lost money right now. Like Hayden Young's like 700,000.
See, ideally, I'd like to trade both of them, but this week
you'd have to have
a
lot of funds
to get to anyone. So I'll still go Hayden Young first in as a defender, and then Sarong. I think the order's pretty good there.
Yeah, the frustrating thing is, like, obviously the week before Port Adelaide, they went to town on Sydney and scored 120s, but Sydney decided to turn it up against Collingwood. So it's a tough position for Dacos. I think you definitely can trade him. The other thing is with the trades in the defence, I think there's a pretty clear top 5. I'm struggling to see that 6th player, and don't tell me it's Luke Ryan because I refuse. And like in our trade-in targets, we'll talk about the 6th guy before, but you've got Lockie Whitfield, Harry Sheasel, Jack Sinclair, Tom Stewart, Nick Newman, I think are the clear top 5. Like, are you trading back in Nick Martin? Are you trading in Jordan Clark? What are we doing here?
Let's talk trade targets then,
let's do it. We'll talk about the trade targets. Defenders. So like I said, this is the top 5.
Yep.
Whitfield, Sheasel, Sinclair, Stewart, Newman.
Get him in.
I feel pretty confident saying that.
If Nick Martin is playing a halfback role, the answer is easy.
Yeah, it is.
It's yes.
It's yes. And that's why I traded him out, because he wasn't playing that role.
Exactly. So,
is he playing that role?
Do we have what word do we have? What do we see during the week? Because this is, I mean, we're recording this on Monday, but what are we going to see come out? If you get word, I think again that Martin's playing that halfback role, then
it feels dirty again. But
you know what I mean? What's
Ridley's 2 weeks, and that was last updated on the 6th, so he's probably out another week.
Look, if that's the role, I'd feel good about a Hayden Young to Nick Martin trade. But it's just shitty because we're here last week thinking this is a guy that got 22.
We're a bit salty about it.
Well, he got 22 points in the first half last week.
Was he taking kick-ins?
Looked like a fucking idiot.
One kick-in. He played 100% time on ground. Holy shit! I just saw that. He did not come off the field. That is incredible. Crazy. His heat map, 77% defensive half. Yeah, I mean he could be that 6th guy. Wayne could be that 6th guy. Who's the 6th guy on average? It's probably Luke Ryan, isn't it? Yeah, Luke Ryan's sitting there. Could you do Luke Ryan or Clark? They got the Giants. They're tough. It's at the Giants too. And then they got Port Adelaide.
If you want a ridiculous pod with a ridiculous ceiling, Luke Ryan's that guy.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Holmes has gone back-to-back 70s, but he's got St Kilda.
No.
I don't think I'm confident enough to go there. Yeah, it probably, like, so again, going back to that question of Nick Dacos, like, are you trading Nick Dacos to Nick Martin? Or Nick Dacos to Wangani Millera?
Only if I have all 5 of the other guys.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think if you've got Nick Dacos, I guess there are teams that would be in that position, but I hazard a guess that there's a lot of teams that still have maybe
that don't have
one of those 5 guys. And then if you're in that luxurious position, then Nick Martin, maybe that's probably the safest from a pod perspective. But
against Sydney, is there any risk of a tag?
Sydney have shown that they'll tag that sort of role. Did you? So you heard it because we didn't. I didn't watch this game. But okay, you're just basing that he's half back off the heat map. Could be a winger that works hard defensively.
Yeah, it could be.
I thought I would have seen.
Maybe I'll have to go back and watch the film. But if you guys did watch that Essendon game, give us confirmation whether or not Nick Martin was playing off the half back. He didn't have the kick-ins. He had one kick-in, so. It's not the exact same role that he had at the start of the year where he was taking all the kick-ins as well, which obviously balloons his point scoring ability even more. I struggled to figure out how much of an upside Nick Dacos to a Nick Martin would be. I know it was 50 points this week, but that was with Nick Dacos getting a hard tag. I don't know if Brisbane are going to give Dacos a hard tag. They rarely do. They might do some stoppage rolls with Berry, but they haven't been doing that much. Now, Dacos is kind of a different story because you stopped Dacos, you stopped Collingwood. Still, it's an interesting one. Let's maybe go into the midfielders for trade-in targets. I have a lot of question marks here. The Brisbane Lions are going into a good run. They've got Collingwood this week, and then they finish the year with Essendon. So it's 2 solid matchups. Dunkley's gone a couple of average scores in a row, but I think he is a good trade-in target if you don't have him. My next guy here with a question mark next to his name is Lockie Neal. Now, we talked about the ceiling a couple of weeks ago. He was up there with Errol Goulden as the only player who's gone over 133 times since his bye.
Yeah.
And he's also had 2 128s and 129s. So, 5 128 or above since round 12. He's obviously coming off a tag game against the Giants. But is he a sneaky point of difference could you, say you did something like a Merritt to Neil? I think that has some serious upside potential. Again, if you want to take that Hail Mary throw, because Steel side bottom apparently tags now. Are we seeing side bottom go to Neil?
I was just about to say it's a decent matchup in Collingwood, but the way that side bottom nullified Errol at the contest, in my mind, that's where you want to nullify Lachie Neale as well, is at the contest. So I could see him going back to that, but outside of that, Collingwood's a good matchup. Maybe it's a decent pod.
Because we still saw Heaney light it up. He had a 127 against Collingwood. So, I don't know. Just.
Yeah, with a 60-point
last quarter. But
so
still.
It's probably an asterisk on that, isn't there?
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit nerve-wracking. But he's definitely someone that I think has been ignored a bit to this point because of the fact that he is tagged. But there's a solid chance, I think, that he doesn't get tagged in the next 2 games against Collingwood and Essendon, 2 teams who historically don't do too much of a hard tag role. Yeah. And when he doesn't get tagged, he can definitely pop off for a ceiling score, as we've seen this season. Noah Anderson, we've obviously talked about in the last couple of weeks, but they got the monkey off their shoulder and got a win on the road. But these next 2 matchups are really... West Coast should have been the one. Essendon was always the light green on the scale.
Yeah.
The Melbourne Richmond back-to-back are 2 green, dark greens, especially that Richmond. Watching that Richmond versus St Kilda game, it was the biggest training run of a game I've seen in a long time, and it's only going to get worse, I think. Gold Coast, they're out of the finals. So that final game of the year...
Could be a bloodbath.
It could be a bloodbath. It could be just Mark City.
Could be anything, couldn't it?
The thing is, he hasn't been tackling, right? So he's gone 1 tackle in his last 2 games.
Yeah, and that sucks, given that we cited a good 4-game run. But we know he's a guy with the ceiling, so, it wouldn't surprise me either way with Noah Anderson, unfortunately. It wouldn't surprise me if he just dishes up 80, 90s for the next 2 weeks, and then it wouldn't surprise me if he goes back-to-back 150s.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm not going to be going there personally, if that's anything.
Tuke Miller also might be back this week. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for a Noah Anderson. What do you think? Does it help him or hurt him?
I think it could be a good thing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
More cheap ball, more outside ball?
Yeah, I think so. It just allows him to do what he wants to do a little bit more, and then Tuke can play the role that he plays, potentially.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Zach Butters, Connor Rosie, the Port Boys, they obviously had a good matchup this past week.
Yeah.
I think their next couple of matchups are neutral.
Adelaide, Freo.
So, they're there.
Yeah.
I think if you've got them, you're not trading them out. I don't know if you're trading them in. Although I just like Butters. He's a good player.
Yeah, he is. I'd rather trade in Jack Steele.
So Jack Steele has a good one this week.
Yeah.
And a not so good one the week after.
Yeah.
But Carlton might be out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That might change.
You never know what that last round looks like sometimes, do you? I'm making it a week-to-week proposition. I'd trade in Steele and hope that he tackles more than Hayden Young.
Of Neil, Anderson, Steele, who do you like the most?
Steele.
I think I like Steele the most too. He's been just consistent as well.
Yeah, and he's got...
even in not the greatest matchups, he'll find his way to close to a 110.
Hopefully the Freo Geelong game was an outlier, and hopefully Geelong are back to loving receiving cuddles this weekend.
Hopefully. Because
Marshall
he will be
Jack
right
Steele
up there.
Go big.
Well, Rowan Marshall saved his cuddles for this week.
Hopefully.
Stored him in the tank. He's got him ready to go. I think I would rank them... Neil's a smoky. I do quite like him. I want to know Collingwood fans' thoughts on whether or not they think Steele side bottom has a chance to go to him, or if he's just exclusively going to be tagging wings and maybe going to someone like a McCluggage or something like that instead.
Yeah, it would definitely be. If that wasn't in the back of your mind, it's an awesome matchup. And
they tagged Giants tagged Neil and they won.
Yeah,
and that's been a theme in the past for Brisbane.
It definitely has been a theme.
So it wouldn't surprise me, but Collingwood just haven't traditionally tagged. But this Steele side bottom thing's a bit of a curveball. Let's go into the forward targets. We've got Tom Power, we've got Mateus Philippou, and then we've got Chaos after that.
It's a ladder, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a ladder, but it's also in our forward line. I've ranked it this order. I've back to Tom Powell over Philippou.
Yeah, flip-flopping.
I don't know why. Maybe just because I don't want to play with the shits on my team. Bulldogs, Hawthorn. It's tough. I'd want to hear some good news about Philippou throughout the week that he's training and he's feeling good and it's all happy days. The good thing about Philippou being laid out is it keeps him cheap for next year.
Yeah, definitely.
If you want to look for a silver lining, one fewer game to rise his price up. Is there anyone else that you think we're missing in the forward line? Isaac Rankin came back and he was average. And he's got Port Adelaide. He was worse than average. He had 45 points. And he's got Port Sydney. So I'm not going there.
Yeah, I think you're just rocking with, like you said, those top 5 that we're happy with, and then it's just a 3-way sort of carousel, isn't it? Peatling, Pooh, and Powell.
What about Connor McDonald? Look at the run for Hawthorn coming up.
Yeah.
They've got Richmond and North Melbourne.
We talked about this before the show, just Hawthorn's run, and then we both said, oh, Hawthorn's largely fantasy irrelevant. But, I mean, if you...
Look at Connor McDonald's run since the bye round. He's gone 118,
he's playing the
60,
same.
grant that, but 110, 86, 64, 90, 103. So 2 60s, the rest all 86 and above.
Going into Richmond.
Going to Richmond North.
And they're gonna want to keep trucking for finals.
I don't reckon that's a bad shout. What time's their game? Do they play early on? No, late. So you wouldn't be able to loop it. It'd be going into him. Hey, that's a bit of a Maddie shout, I reckon.
Yeah, you've said worse things, I think.
If you wanna go someone crazy, Connor McDonald, I think he's a footballer. He can play and he can score.
Let's just talk a little bit more about Kennedy.
Kennedy, yes. So
because
he goes into a tough matchup,
and he goes into West Coast St Kilda, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
So he's almost a guy you have to have if he plays the role. And
so he played 85% time on ground, 14 CBAs. So he was behind Hewitt, Walsh, Cripps as a CBA mid.
That's the role he scores.
It was effectively the top 4. The only 4 in the midfield. So
that's the role he scores well in. The
Yeah.
one he doesn't score well in is the one where he's not on the field. That's a tough one to score in.
Well, but sometimes he plays half back. Sometimes he's playing forward. Like he's
Sometimes
a Swiss
he's
Army knife.
Riding the pine.
Sometimes he's riding the pine.
Splinters Kennedy.
So Carlton have to win, right?
Yes.
There's no more... Actually, they've got a lot of injuries. They had a lot of injuries on the weekend, I'm pretty sure. Like a lot. They were down to no one on the bench. So Sard was out, Curnow was out, Jack Martin was out, and Fogarty was out.
I think Mackay's injured as well, isn't he?
Is he? None of those are midfielders, but
Yeah.
it just might mean, obviously, he's in the side. And if he's in the side, he was a top 4 mid option for them last week.
I reckon, you know
Not
what?
a bad shout.
Listen to Destroy. Destroy will have the inside scoop on what's happening at the Blue Baggers.
It's so hard to trust him.
Roy?
No, trust Kennedy.
I was gonna say, Roy's
Carlton.
a trustworthy bloke.
No, Roy's trustworthy, but Carlton, and I'm pretty sure Roy would tell you that.
Yeah.
It's hard to trust Kennedy's role.
Well, I'm going to be listening closely to what Destroy has to say about him this week, I reckon.
But those, I do like those 2 names. So Connor McDonald and Matt Kennedy. If you want to just go a bit spicy, I think that they're good shouts. The problem is both teams play the end of the round, so you can't have a look at them. You have to roll into them, so it makes them a little bit extra risky. But both have awesome matchups. And I reckon both of them have a little bit of thirst about them as well, and can really feast on those kind of matchups. So, little spicy one if you want to have a little punt on that F6 spot. But I think, for the most part, the names we've been talking about the last few weeks are probably the safer bets to go.
Little update from Twitter about Harry Sheasel. His ankle had scans avoiding major injury. Something to just be aware of throughout the week.
Talking about antipods, that might shake up the competition. But I thought I heard something about the fact that he was okay and we should expect him to be fine.
Yeah.
But
just put
hopefully,
a tab on that
hopefully we have some concrete news about that before the start of the round, because they again play on the Sunday. So all these Sunday teams, question marks, could have another Philippou situation on our hands. So make sure you got bench cover if you can help it. Don't
What's bench
cop
cover?
donuts if you can help it. And let's hopefully get you guys through to the grand final if you've got them coming up in a week's time, or if you're in the grand final this week, hopefully you get the big W and can throw it back into your mate's face and let them know who's boss. We will see you guys on Friday, going away, having a look and see what our trades are, getting prepped for the Content Creators Cup finals. Luke Rogerson, coach of the Oxlongs, Content Creators Cup champion. We're going to see it here next week, so we're all pulling for you, mate.
Let's go.
Give us a big Rojo in the comments section below, guys. Give this video a big thumbs up. Head over to askmeonq.com/ballboys. Get your questions answered, and we'll see you guys on Friday afternoon for our live show. Bye.